So we are all about saving money, but sometimes that means spending more money to buy higher quality items. So in this video, we are going to be sharing 10 things that we pay more money for better quality.
Hey guys, it's Joseph.
And Tasha with One Big Happy Life. We make videos about how to find balance, build wealth, and live your happy. So if you are all about creating a life that you love, this is the place to be.
Sometimes when you want to save some money, you actually have to spend more money to get there. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't ever get the best deal that you possibly can. You absolutely should, and make sure you can get every single discount and whatnot that you can to pay the cheapest price. But the item that you're buying or the service that you're purchasing, make sure you're also thinking about the best value for your dollar. So in this video, we're going to tell you some things that we are willing to pay higher prices for because the quality is higher and will give us a better overall value for our hard-earned dollars.
Now, one more point before we get into our list of things, and that is to say that we weren't always able to afford all of the features that we look for in items now. And so what that may have meant was that we either did without the thing, took a long time to save up for it, which honestly may still be the case, like when it comes to vacations and stuff.
Or my truck.
Or Joseph's truck. So Joseph's truck would be do without it because we've never bought him a pickup truck, even though he really wants one. Or slowly increase our income to where we were able to comfortably fit the level of quality that we wanted from items into our budget. So it's a process, right? As you go through life. So, okay, let's talk about what some of those things are. So, number one, bras. I do pay more money for bras because I have found that more expensive bras provide me better support. They last longer, and it's a lot easier for me to find them in the size that I need because I can't shop at, I couldn't even shop at Victoria's Secret or something like that if I wanted to because they don't come in my size. But generally, I have found that with bras, whenever I would go for a less expensive bra, the materials would be flimsier, they wouldn't provide as much support, they'd fall apart in a shorter period of time.
And now for something completely different. Shoes. We are willing to buy high quality shoes, and they frequently cost some more money. But not always. A lot of times you get some pretty good deals on shoes, but especially running shoes, I think that's where we're willing to spend a little bit more.
And our dress shoes.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Well, then I hardly wear dress shoes anymore. but yeah, so when
our boots are just about basically
I don't have
any
winter boots.
You do have winter boots. They were just a gift. My mom bought him his winter boots. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
The red ones.
She got me those?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was nice for her. They held up pretty well.
Yeah.
I am wearing them out though. So bottom line is better shoes, so they'll fit a little bit better, and then of course they will last longer. And I think, well, gosh, I've had those boots for years now.
And I have plantar fasciitis, so I actually have, pretty bad foot pain. So when I wear less expensive shoes that don't have proper arch support, I'll be in pain for days. So it is absolutely worth it for me to buy more expensive shoes. So I don't buy generally, $3 flip-flops. I'll buy the more expensive flip-flops that have like the memory foam, the support cork to help with my foot pain, my back pain, my knee pain, things like that.
I learned this in high school when I used to buy the cheapest tennis shoes when I was playing tennis a lot, and I would literally run through the soles after a month or two, but then I finally decided, all right, I'm going to spend, I think at the time, I don't know, $80, maybe even $100 on some higher end shoes, and then I had those for years and never wore them out. So it really is a big deal.
So item number 3 is probably not something you would typically think about as something that costs money, but schools. So we do have one child in public school and then one child in preschool / daycare because he's not of school age. But we have always prioritized finding schools that are known for, just having great programs, being great for students, having, for Alexis, a lot of AP offerings, a lot of elective offerings, so she could have, as full an experience in school as she could possibly have. And so that often meant paying more for our house or considering private school, which we never actually did private school. It always ended up being more cost effective to just pay more for a house than to pay less for a house and then go put her in private school.
Another thing that we spend more money on is tools, power tools. So in our garage, you will find higher end tools more often than not. In the power, when we have power tools, we're buying those higher quality items, and fortunately, it's really worked out for us. Like, I have not had near the issues with anything. Like, I haven't had any warranty service, nothing like that. But when I was trying to be on the cheap and buying my things at Harbor Freight or lower end brands, I would be wearing these things out, or they would just not work, or they would break. And so, while occasionally that's still the better value, because like if you just have a one-off purpose for a tool, well, that's all right. But if it's going to be a long-term thing that you're going to use all the time, it's totally cool and worth it to pay more for a brand you can trust.
Next up, makeup. So for me, I do spend more on pricier makeup. I actually use a mix of drugstore products and, higher end makeup, but I have generally found, especially when it comes to foundation and eyeshadow, that drugstore products, the eyeshadows are not pigmented enough to show up well on my brown skin, and drugstores tend not to carry a wide variety of color options. They tend to focus on the lighter shades, and so then I have a harder time. Even if the makeup company actually makes the foundation in colors that go much darker than mine, I don't find them in the drugstore. And so rather than having to special order a whole bunch of tubes for me to try out and having difficulty returning them, I have just found that it is so much easier for me, more convenient to find foundation, blush, eyeshadow colors that work with my skin tone by going with higher end makeup and going to those counters and knowing that I can get products that I can rely on and get at short notice, and it's just super convenient. So makeup is one of those things. Not everything, but specifically the items that I mentioned.
We are also willing to spend a little bit more on our camera equipment, mainly for the YouTube channel now. Fortunately, YouTube has been giving us enough money that we have been able to plow that back into the channel and buy better equipment.
Like this camera right here.
Right this second.
Yes. So when we first started YouTube, we were actually using what is still a fairly pricey DSLR. It was a Canon T5i that Joseph bought for me many, many years ago, back in 2013, when I wanted to get into photography. It's an entry-level DSLR camera. And so we were shooting on that for a good chunk of our time in doing YouTube videos. And so we recently upgraded to what we have now, which is a Sony a7 III, which is an amazing camera. It takes amazing pictures, and we love, love, love it to death. And I'm so glad that we upgraded, but I'm also glad that we spent some time on lower end cameras, getting to learn photography, getting to learn that whether or not we actually loved YouTube, and waiting for YouTube to make enough money so that we could then buy this camera.
Yeah, and for a long time we were using the Panasonic G7 as our budget 4K camera, and it was it's doing its job very well until we were able to get this, and so that's a perfect example.
And we love it, yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, cars. So that doesn't mean that we have luxury cars. We don't have luxury cars. We drive a Honda Fit and a Dodge Journey. So definitely, mid to low range, like in terms of...
Well, they're far below average, technically. The average, so for new cars, it's over $30,000 now on average, which is crazy.
So we bought our Dodge Journey used, but it definitely wasn't the absolute cheapest car that we could find. It was 2 years old when we bought it. But we loved that it had third row seating, which we use far more frequently than we actually thought we were going to when we bought that car. And it had, side curtain airbags, which none of our cars had before. And so we were happy to pay a little bit more to have some of these features, like the safety features and the convenience features of both of our cars, because the Honda Fit has backup cameras and side view cameras that are really, really great, especially when we have a brand new driver, which is Alexis. And it also ends up saving us on car insurance because it, has all these safety features. So we definitely spend more on our cars than we absolutely have to have some of these features that are important to us.
Next, we will spend a little bit more for great quality in clothing. So if you've ever bought a really cheap t-shirt at like a stand somewhere, the second you take it home and you wash it once, they tend to shrink and they will wear out very quickly. I mean, and really I have this even with some shirts that I get at like Old Navy. They tend to wear out and the necks will stretch out far earlier than I feel like they should, even though Old Navy, they have a good reputation generally, but you also know that they're going to be low cost.
Yeah, we love us some Old Navy, don't get us wrong. We should still shop there all the time. But when it comes to staples that we wear on a regular basis, like often, we opt to pay more to have higher quality items that we know will last longer. So like if I'm getting a pair of colored jeans that is sort of on trend, I'm happy to go to Old Navy because I don't expect that I'm going to be wearing those jeans for the next 4 or 5 years. But if, we're talking a classic pair of blue or black or white jeans that I expect to have for a number of years, then I will spend a little bit more. And I often find that the fit will be a little bit better. For example, Gap's curvy jeans are jeans that I really, really love. Also, Ann Taylor Loft's curvy jeans. We're not talking like 7 jeans or something like that, but just paying that little bit extra to have jeans that'll last, or clothing items that'll last a little bit longer, that the fit is a little bit better, just makes us enjoy our clothing even more. And really, that's the sole purpose of the items that we own, to bring us joy. So we're happy to spend money there.
Next is our house. It is very, very important to really consider how much you're going to be spending on the place that you're going to live, spend a lot of time, because if you don't get the best value and then you're going to be having some headaches later. And that's really kind of the trade-off. So whenever we're looking for a house, we don't want it to need too much work. So
in theory.
Yeah, right. In theory. Or if it does need a lot of work, then you better be getting a great deal on that house, which is more towards what we did with this house. But we would have completely been okay if we could have found a house, and we would have really preferred to find a house that didn't nearly need as much work as this one did, but didn't cost too much more. And unfortunately, when we were looking for a house, we just couldn't find one that really fit that well. And so we just got the lowest price we could on one that unfortunately does need more work.
Yeah, so some of the things that we look for in a house that may make it more expensive. So having a 2-car garage. We do have 2 cars. We never park our cars in the garage because we use our garage as a workshop. We want to be able to do DIY projects. We really, really enjoy that. Having a bathroom in the master bedroom. So we're not sharing a bathroom with the kids. Although let's be real, Reeves only uses our bathroom. But still, in theory, it is really nice to be able to, get up in the middle of the night and not have to leave our room and go to the bathroom, So that was another thing. Another thing that we looked for was having a forested backyard, just having a beautiful view outside of our house. And we were lucky enough to score that with this house. And I just absolutely love it. I love sitting at my desk, looking out our bay window in the office and being able to see, cardinals and deer. We saw 2 antlered deer in not in our backyard, but in the forest. We've seen foxes. It's just really nice to be, yes, we're city folk, as in we live nearish to the city, but we still get that taste of nature. So we definitely spend more for those items than if we had decided not to have those items.
We also tend to buy higher quality food. So as much as we possibly can, we buy organic food. We also buy a lot of produce, a lot of fresh things, and really try to stay away from prepackaged, very processed foods. And so when you do that, processing exists because they're able to do things much, much cheaper.
And preserve things so they last a lot longer. So it's if you're prioritizing fresh food, then you're buying food more often, but hopefully you're buying it in smaller quantities so you can use it up before it goes bad. But yes, buying organic versus not organic costs more. Having things like fish and seafood in our diet, it costs more than not having those items in our diet. So,
but of course, doctors always tell you you're supposed to be eating fish like 3 times a week. I don't know if anybody that's actually eating fish that often, but we try to mix it in as much as we can. But it is really expensive. So
and we do enjoy like having a steak every once in a while. Not often. We don't actually have steak that often. Maybe flank steak, because we can usually get that at Costco for a pretty reasonable price per pound. But generally we don't have steak that often, but we like to have it on occasion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like maybe like once every other month or something like that, we might have some steak.
Another thing, if you've been watching our channel, you know that travel is really important to us. And when we travel, we travel with a budget in mind, but I wouldn't say that we are super budget travelers.
Yes.
We are completely okay looking at all of the options and deciding where that value is. And we were able to do that with our trip to Singapore, where we looked at different hotels and decided, well, although this wasn't going to be the cheapest hotel, it was going to put us so close to all the other things that we weren't going to spend all of our time on a train going back and forth from one thing to another thing. And so that was worth spending more money.
We also Ubered a lot, and that saved us a lot of time. Another thing that we will often do, like if we're going to an amusement park or something like that, we may go ahead and spring for something like a fast pass or a line skipper pass, so that we can actually fully see everything in the park and use our time on rides instead of waiting on lines. And so that, for us, maximizes our vacation time. So we like to try to incorporate those extras into our budget.
And a lot of times we don't take as long at vacations as I guess we probably should. And so because we're trying to cram it in, we know that those are probably the sacrifices, the changes that we need to make. We're going to try to minimize the fixing to time.
Yeah. So those are some things that we really value, that we pay more for quality. Now, of course, this will vary from person to person, and some people may look at this list and say, oh, that's insane. I would never spend money on that. And that is totally okay, because we each have to set our financial goals and our financial priorities according to the life that we personally want to live. So we would love to hear some of your splurge items down in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.